Kemet is actually the ancient African, ancient Egyptian name for the empire of Egypt. Okay, and this transcends back at least 6,000 years. The actual Kemetic people themselves, will tell you it's about 35,000, at least 35,000 years. And I think the archaeology and everything else will soon catch up to that date. But right now in academia, we can say 6,000 years old. It's an empire that that spanned from, let's say, Egypt proper, as we know Egypt today, let's say from, Lower Egypt, which is Cairo, Alexandria, that area, Upper Egypt, went far down into Sudan, far east into Arabia, far west into Libya and Chad itself. And I think the more and more we delve and dig into ancient Egypt or El Kemet itself, we'll find out it even expands quite further than that itself, because of course it had its colonies all across, going up into Europe itself as well. We have Herodotus mentioning the Colchians and so forth, that is just beneath the Black Sea near Russia area. You'll see that the colonies spread it out a vast expanse of land. But yeah, so Kemet literally just means Kemet, from the root word kem, it means black. And there is a debate about what it actually means. Does it mean the black land? Does it mean the black settlement? Does it mean the black people? All we know, it simply is the ancient name of ancient Egyptian empire.
Right. Okay. So let's get into their spiritual systems. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the spiritual systems of Kemet, were there more than one, or was it monolith? Was it monolith, or was it a poly? Was it a poly spiritual system?
See, that's a good question right there. That's a good question. So the Kemetic spiritual systems, and that is quite key right there. There is various different systems, plural, that was unified into one overarching system. And it's very difficult to say spiritual systems, because spiritual is a very vague word. It's not a precise definition of what exactly was transpiring with those people itself. It's more than spiritual. Let's say it is economical, it's political, it is agricultural, it is technological, it is a whole empire. Let's just imagine an empire. Imagine a state. Everything, all the sciences, all the categories that goes into forming and making a state. That is what it is itself. And of course, there is what we consider to be spiritual, is another way of saying the incorporeal, the invisible, that which deals and delves into the inner man itself. And there was various different systems within inside of the empire of Kemet that dealt with the inner man and cultivating the inner man itself. So when we're talking about Kemetic systems at the root itself was to deal with gnosis. We've made mention of the term gnosis before. I don't know, most of you guys are new who don't know about this. We've produced something called the Kemetic Creed. And that is just a basic outline or skeleton that those people who say they are practitioners of Kemeticism or Kemetic spirituality, Kemetic science, or Kemetic philosophy, whatever you want to classify it as, there is 7 basic things that according to the teachings on the papyruses, the walls, the tablets, and all the recordations, you will know that this is the number one thing: gnosis. Gnosis, that's the very first thing, is gnosis. What exactly is gnosis? Gnosis literally comes from the Greek word meaning to know something, to actually know. And the whole thing was a how can I put it? It was a methodology of 3 steps. Man, know thyself, know the mysteries of the universe, and you'll know God. And the end-all goal of gnosis was to be familiar, or to get to see the face, and I'm being very metaphorical now, the very face, the nature of God. And I will just cut the BS, and I'll cut all of, the fugazi, mystical spookiness. Like, I'll cut all of that into, just clear that nonsense away, and just know that in every mystery school throughout the ages, to know God is literally to know yourself.
Right.
To know God, is to literally know yourself. I read on. Okay. For the ancient Egyptians, like, the most important thing for them, again, was gnosis, to knowing God and becoming, transcending, and actually becoming a deity itself and having everlasting eternal life. And the only way you could have everlasting eternal life is for your name. This is one part of your 9-dimensional being, for your name to be able to live on.
Live on, yeah.
And if you didn't live up to those things, yeah, for example, I don't know, if you had if you was a homosexual, had sex with a man, if you had sex with a child girl, for example, like pedophilia, for example, like you were cut off. You was not allowed to live on with inside of the ancient Egyptian world itself in the afterlife.
Right.
Your name was etched out. You're scratched out of existence itself. So back to being the 10 Commandments, I would say that with inside of the Bible itself, you will see these parallels that does exist. They definitely do exist. But yet again, I would hesitate to say that this is where the 10 Commandments actually come from. Because
the thing is, when I studied, because this is what I did for myself. So the Bible itself states, right, that Moses, the first writer of the Bible, the first 5 books of the Bible, actually was raised in Egypt, right? So this is what my brain did. So I said, okay, so it states, whether it is mythological or factual, it states that he was raised in Egypt, right? Then it also states in the Bible, in Acts 7 verse 22, that Moses was learned in all of the ways of the Egyptians and was mighty in their words and deeds, right? So when it states for me that Moses was raised here and he was also mighty in their words and deeds and their teachings, it would make sense why the Abrahamic religions or the first 5 books would parallel Egypt.
100%. So that would be the better way of actually presenting it. The Bible itself is heavily influenced and inspired by the ancient Egyptian milieu itself. Okay?
Right.
And that is what I would like to say. I would like to say that the Judaic religion or the Judaic tradition is actually a Kemetic tradition. And why would I say it's a Kemetic tradition? If you look at where, the supposed Jews originated from, or the Moses story originated from, or the people lived and so forth, it's within inside of the Kemetic Empire.
Yeah.
So there is very different philosophies that sprung up across the Kemetic Empire, and we will label them as a Kemetic philosophy. But for some strange reason, we do not label Judaism and all these other religions, quote unquote religions and traditions, as a Kemetic philosophy. It's a Kemetic philosophy. I think there is a lot of Egyptologists and biblical scholars have come to that understanding that you can just read the very first chapter of Genesis and you can literally see, the themes, the mores, literally lifted out from Kemetic text and placed within inside of the Bible itself, inside of Genesis. It's all there. For the very fact that the people literally lived inside of Kemet for however many hundreds of years, the very fact that Moses himself, as you said, according to the mythological history, he himself was an Egyptian, had an Egyptian name, was raised up inside of the highest strata of society, i.e. inside of the Pharaoh's house. Like you was educated for 40 odd years within inside of Egypt. It's like me being studied within inside of the UK or England. I must have whatever I create must have some sort of Britishness about it. It's impossible to escape. It's absolutely impossible. The fact that I'm writing in English is going to be it's just a testament of where I come from itself and my influences.
But you see, just to go back on what you said the mythological story of Moses. Now, from my research, when I was studying Abraham religions and African philosophy and history, I found no concrete evidence of the story of Moses within Egypt. With no concrete evidence of that whole slavery story, parting the sea, all of that. There's no concrete evidence of that. Would you say you found the same? Really? Okay.
100%. There is nothing. There's nothing. I think if you really ask the studied Jews themselves, they will tell you it's a mythos. It's mythological. It's a story to tell a deeper philosophical truth. You can literally, you know, I suggest people start actually reading Jewish Jewish philosophy. Jewish philosophy. There is a great Jewish philosopher. I love him. Josephus. Josephus. No, sorry. There's Josephus. He talks about it as well. But it's Philo. Philo. He's a perfect one. Philo. He'll tell you all these stories are allegorical.
Right.
The Jews were never slaves. They never parted the Red Sea. All of this stuff. It's allegorical. It's not factual. It's not historical. It is a mythos. It's a mythos. The story of Adam and Eve.
What they seem to have taken, though, is the mythos from my point of view, because Amen is what most Abrahamic people say at the end of their prayers. Or and Amen is actually, or Amun is a deity within the Nile Valley.
That's it. So again, and this is why I say, like, unfortunately, religion strips away philosophy and science. It strips away philosophy and science. If you put back philosophy and science within inside of most of the Abrahamic religion, like, I don't think anybody has a problem with it. Nobody would have a problem with, for example, like now we have a problem with a talking snake.
Yes.
We have a problem with a talking snake because they don't make no sense. We know that snakes don't have, you know, voice boxes and all these things here for them to talk. But if we understand that it's an allegory, it's a myth, it's a story, like the tortoise on the hare, okay? We tell these stories, not that we believe it actually factually happened, but rather it has a moral to it. It has a particular principle it's trying to teach, all right? And that's the problem right now with religion. It strips away the philosophy and the science. So with the philosophy, you'll understand, okay, it's trying to tell me a deeper philosophical truth, a deeper ethical truth, a deeper moral truth, okay? And it's completely void right now. Go back to that point you were trying to make, and let me just touch on it.